And so this is what President Trump has been warning about when it comes to birthright citizenship. Because for years, Democrats and the media, they play pretend like birth tourism was some imaginary problem. They acted like nobody was really taking advantage of the loophole. And if you said anything, you were just exaggerating or just fear mongering, right? And so when the Supreme Court ruled to keep birthright citizenship as is, that basically gave a green light to anyone who wanted to keep exploiting the system, as they thought the issue was just going to disappear. And so now, with this latest news, none of this is really coming to a surprise. Now that a South Texas hospital has been exposed advertising "Have My Baby in Texas" packages across the border with the prices listed like a Texas Whataburger drive-through menu, ladies and gentlemen. And let's be honest, everybody knows the real selling point. It wasn't the hospital beds, it wasn't the delivery room, it was access to an American citizenship. And now President Trump is rightfully saying, "I told you," as he's calling for the United States Supreme Court to rehear this issue immediately. And so as always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you do enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. Let's start right here.
Governor Greg Abbott has ordered an investigation into a hospital near the Mexican border over concerns it was selling a path to American citizenship through childbirth packages. The hospital advertised the packages in Mexico, but insists it did nothing illegal. News Nation national correspondent Xavier Walton joins me now from Dallas. So, Xavier, what exactly was this hospital offering?
Marky, good morning. So the billboard made it look almost as simple as, booking a hotel room, come to South Texas, have your baby, and just pay one set price. A natural delivery started at $39.50. A C-section started off at $5,525. The ad included a number for Mission Regional Medical Center and sent families to a website called "Have My Baby in Texas." Mission Regional Medical Center in the Rio Grande Valley confirms, the campaign was its own and reportedly began in 2021. So the website is now offline and the marketing materials are no longer being used. However, the hospital says it advertises its medical services just like other hospitals and will cooperate with the state. But Abbott says the campaign appears to have targeted foreign nationals who wanted their children born on U.S. soil. Under the 14th Amendment, most children born on American soil receive U.S. citizenship at birth.
So what you have right here is a hospital that was only located a few miles away from the border, and I'm going to show you exactly that in a moment when we get to the next clip. But this hospital, just minutes away from the border, they wanted to use a marketing strategy where they were advertising you could come on over and have your baby in Texas. And they marketed the price, the cost, cash price that you're going to pay. They made sure to put it in Spanish because that's their target audience, which there's no law against that, but understand they put it in Spanish for a reason, because they wanted to make sure the people who they wanted to read it were able to read it, or else they would have just put it in English. If they were trying to attract the majority English speaking audience, they would have put it in English. That was not their intention. And so now, does that mean that every single person that they were hoping to attract was going to be someone illegal? Of course not. That's going to be their rebuttal, right? They're going to say, well, there are people who live in South Texas and they can't understand English. And so they also need medical assistance. They also have babies, and we want to make sure that we're marketing towards them and that they understand. But in this next clip, Fox News' Will Cain breaks down actually how, yes, they had the billboards put up right there at the southern border on the Mexico side. And so check this out.
These ads promoted deliveries starting at nearly $4,000 for a natural birth, $5,000 for a C-section. They also directed expectant mothers to a website called HaveMyBabyInTexas.com. I don't know if you can see that right there. HaveMyBabyInTexas.com. The site has since been taken offline. Now, this hospital sits just miles from the U.S.-Mexican border. Here's the south side of the Rio Grande. This is Mexico. And here, just a few miles north, is the Mission Regional Medical Center. A total of roughly 6 miles. In that range, on the Mexican side of the border, 2 billboards at the border crossing promoting those packages. Both, again, have now been removed. Now, these billboards are pouring fuel on what is already a very heated debate, as you know. Estimates suggest up to 26,000 babies are born in the U.S. each year through birthright citizenship or birthright tourism to get birthright citizenship. A hospital spokesperson says, quote, the marketing materials regarding maternity services are no longer in use due to any unintended misunderstanding. We do not support or facilitate any unlawful activity and work to comply with all applicable federal and state laws.
Yeah, so what this hospital wants you to believe, ladies and gentlemen, and I don't believe for 1 second, but this is what they're trying to get you to believe, is that they're located just a few miles away from the southern border. They decided to post some signage, a billboard, at least one of those billboards, on the Mexico side of the southern border in Spanish with the cost of delivery saying, havemybabyintexas.com. I mean, it is catchy. And what they want you to believe is that they were oblivious to who that would attract and what message that would give. Now, mind you, this is a hospital, a multi-million-dollar nonprofit hospital that does market research, that understands their demographics and who the community that they're serving. They know all of this information. That's all part of running a business. They're going to have that information on hand. But they want you to believe that the marketing strategy that they came up with, it was an unintended misunderstanding. In my opinion, the only thing that was unintended was the fact that someone would actually point this out, that they would get caught, and now they would actually have to be accountable for their actions. But let's continue.
Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott is ordering an investigation. Quote, American citizenship is not for sale, and Texas will not permit our healthcare system to be used as a magnet for birth tourism. So what comes next? What comes next for Republicans, from Republicans in Congress on birthright citizenship? Let's ask Texas Congressman Brandon Gill, who joins me now. Congressman, it's good to see you. You know, before we get to birthright citizenship, and I do want to talk about that with you, we're Texans, you and I. What do you make of this? What do you make of this advertising in Mexico?
Well, it's disgraceful, and I think that it's deeply insulting to every single American. We recognize in America as American citizens that American citizenship is worth far more than $4,000, that you don't just cross the border and enter magic dirt and have a child and that child become fully American. You know, our becoming an American citizen means not only that you have constitutional liberties, that you have legal and economic protections and social opportunities that nobody else in the world has, but it also means that you are a part of the American body politic, that you have the rights and responsibilities that come with being an American citizen, meaning you can influence our system of government, our rule of law, how this country functions, and that's not something that we just simply hand out to our geopolitical adversaries or to anybody who just simply crosses the border for the purpose of giving birth. That's not how our system has ever been designed to work, and that's the core problem here that we're getting to. It's protecting our country and our people and recognizing that America is for Americans, and we're going to keep it that way.
That is the core problem.
Yeah, so what this really is about, what the bigger picture is, this is about the loopholes. The loophole that President Trump wanted to actually take action and do something about it. But the Supreme Court, they decided to rule in favor of upholding birthright citizenship. And so therefore, those who want to exploit and those who want to monetize that loophole, monetize the system as is, they're able to do so. And if you think that this is just happening in a South Texas hospital close to the border, no. This just happens to be the one that end up getting a little too bold and got caught. But let me bring up what the president had to say after seeing this. And he says, signs and billboards are being put up all over our southern border and Mexico advertising birthright citizenship, with deliveries starting at 4,000. Likewise, similar signs going up all over our country. Billions of dollars will be illegally made by this scam, with citizenship going to anyone willing to pay. It will be by far the number one way of becoming a citizen, and then the entire family will be allowed to follow. Not sustainable. Nobody saw this coming. American citizenship is not for sale. In fact, That is a crime, and therefore the Supreme Court's ruling is wrong. I will be asking for a rehearing by the United States Supreme Court immediately. This miscarriage of justice will destroy America if they don't change their absolutely insane decision. This was never the intent of the 14th Amendment, no matter how much the left keeps on trying to spin it as if it is, it was, and it always should be. And so let's go to this next clip with Byron Donalds as he speaks on that. Take a listen.
Next one, Governor Greg Abbott is ordering an investigation into a Texas hospital after they literally advertised, I think we can put it up on the screen, advertised birth packages in South Texas in both Spanish on the left and English on the right. These were billboards in Mexico. Congressman, is this what the framers of the 14th Amendment had in mind with birthright citizenship? This kind of thing?
Absolutely not. And I hope the Supreme Court is happy, because this was not the original intent of the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was for the children of black slaves and for black slaves who obviously did not have citizenship in the United States because of their status as slaves. That's what it was for. It was not for birth tourism and all this other nonsense that the Supreme Court has now allowed. So I hope Justice Roberts and those other justices are happy, because now you have a situation where you have medical institutions who are advertising for people to come to the United States and have their babies. It's sick, it's disrespectful of American citizenship, and it's disrespectful of the Constitution.
By the way, just a caveat on those posters. The Mission Regional Medical Center says in part, quote, "We do not support or facilitate any unlawful activity and work to comply with all applicable federal and state laws. The marketing materials regarding maternity services are no longer in use due to any unintended misunderstanding."
Yeah, that's corporate CYA. Let's just be clear, America.
You know what that is.
What you just heard is corporate CYA. It's BS. It's disrespectful of the American people, and this is why the Supreme Court is wrong on the decision that they rendered.
Yeah, that's basically getting caught with your hand in the cookie jar and then trying to backtrack as quick as possible in order to avoid any further damage. That's what they're doing right now by putting these statements out and then trying to go with the narrative that this is all just one big misunderstanding. The marketing was not intentionally being created in a way where it would attract people from outside this country who would be seeking to be able to get access to American citizenship by exploiting the birthright citizenship loophole. Now, the chances that the president will be able to get that rehearing that he wants to get with the Supreme Court, it's not very likely to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Unfortunately, those things are very rare. Last time it happened was decades ago, where the Supreme Court even was willing to hear. So the likelihood that happens where they even do it again, it's a long shot. But what might not be such a long shot, if Republicans can actually get it together, and it's going to take getting rid of some rhinos, because like I said, when this first went down, ladies and gentlemen, with the whole SCOTUS ruling, was Trump was playing the long game. He had mentioned already that he was not confident the Supreme Court would rule in his favor with birthright citizenship. But what he did was now bring this to the forefront. It was now in the public spotlight. You could not ignore it anymore. And so now this is something that, yes, Congress, they can actually do something about it. Now, it can get through the House. They can do it, just like with the Save America Act. They can get it through the House. But then it gets down to the Senate. This is where it comes down to getting rid of the rhinos who are working against Trump and getting in Republicans who want to work with Trump. And so let's get into this clip with Chip Roy speaking about how Congress can fix it. And so take a listen to this.
According to you, there's a pathway to have to kind of correct the Supreme Court ruling that everyone witnessed just last week. And I kind of want you to break this down, because obviously you have the legal expertise in all of this. But you're saying we actually don't really have to go the amendment route, which is obviously very extensive and difficult to do. You've got a different plan in place. So break this down for us.
Sure. First of all, let's be very clear. An amendment to the Constitution isn't going to happen right now. It's just that it's a fool's errand to say that we're going to get 2/3 of Congress. We can't get 60 votes for the SAVE Act, y'all. We're not going to get 2/3 to pass a constitutional amendment and then get 3/4 of the states to ratify it. So maybe eventually, fine, pass it if you want to. I'll vote for it. Great. But let's be very realistic that we need to deal with this legislatively. There are a number of ways to do that. Number one, Section 5 of the 14th Amendment is very clear about our role as Congress in order to provide legislation in support of what the 14th Amendment says, right? So we can craft legislation consistent with the 14th Amendment, but that is clarifying. Now, to be clear, we should have done that a long time ago. I was advocating for it. In fact, in the Pause Act that I introduced last fall, I literally say in the bill, I want to pause all immigration until we fix a bunch of stuff. I won't read you the whole list of stuff, but one of those things was, in fact, birthright citizenship, because I knew that we were putting all of our cards, or all of our eggs in the basket of the court, and that was going to be a mistake. So we need to define subject to the jurisdiction thereof. We can do that under the Section 5 of the 14th Amendment. We need to define it very clearly as to what we mean and what subject to the jurisdiction means, and say that this is, if you're born here in the United States on American soil to one American citizen, great. If you're born to two American citizens, however we want to define it, and say that you're not going to get that status if you're just coming here and you're just born and of two non-citizens and you have no status. And there's some gray area in between all that, but let's just define it. The second thing is, we need to pause immigration. We need to limit the people who are coming here. I would take a broad approach and pause almost all of it. At a minimum, we should be pausing and limiting childbearing women, and we should be making sure that people aren't coming here who are pregnant. We should be limiting the number of people who could have legal permanent residency status and be able to have a child here and so forth. So these are all things Congress can do immediately to respond to this misguided Supreme Court decision. One final point, I don't want to filibuster, but I watch people waking up to what's happening with the court in this ruling and to other decisions. And it's really galling, H-1Bs, for example. It's really galling for those of us who for now 2 or 3 decades have been fighting all of these issues and saying, look, guys, H-1Bs are broken. You're allowing the Chamber of Commerce to dictate our policy, and you're allowing birthright citizenship to occur. And you got all of these, people in church community and religious community. And look, I'm a proud Southern Baptist, and I believe that we should have hearts that want to help people in need of help at the moment they need it. But that's not an excuse to allow people to come rampantly into our country and allow birthright citizenship, Plyler v. Doe, where you get a free education, free access to our healthcare system, H-1Bs being exploited by corporate America for profiteering, these baby factories allowing people to come here and allowing our enemies to get citizenship. All of the ways that diversity visas and chain migration have been used to undermine our system. And now I've got a bunch of my colleagues who are telling me we can't codify H.R. 2 unless they get a big expansion of agriculture visas. Look, I'm telling you, we're upside down because for too long people have allowed that to occur, and now people are starting to see the consequences of it.
And so I'm just going to go ahead and leave it right here. The reality is this should be something that should easily be a bipartisan issue. But since it's coming out of the Trump administration, Democrats cannot let it be. When we're talking about protecting the value of being an American citizen, that should not be a controversial issue, ladies and gentlemen. That should not be something where Democrats stand on one side and Republicans stand on the other. That should be something that we call common sense, holding up the value of what it is to be an American, not devaluing it. But this is how far Democrats have gone. First, they let in millions and millions of illegal migrants through the southern border illegally. Now they turned over their party to the radical left. The socialists are now in control, and they want nothing more than to make every illegal a legal citizen, giving them all the rights and benefits of citizens, no matter how they got here, no matter if they have criminal records, no matter if they're violent offenders, none of that matters. So the Republican Party going into the midterm, and if somehow they're able to actually hold on to the House and the Senate, it's a long shot. Usually doesn't happen and go down that way historically. But if they're able to, they need to put it in high gear and start getting things done. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget you enjoy the content. Smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in future videos. And as always, until next time.